Hello there, Mr. Wilson here again for episode 1 of the How Do I Help My Child With series. This is How Do I Help My Child With Adding Whole Numbers. Now, if your child is in secondary school, they should have a method for adding up whole numbers, and that is referred to as the column method. And your child should have used this method in primary school to add up whole numbers. It is probably the most common method at primary, secondary, and even beyond to add up whole numbers. Another key word that your child might be familiar with is number bonds, and we'll talk about those in a second. So firstly then, if your child is adding up whole numbers, this might also be referred to as integers. Integers is just another word for a whole number. So if your child is adding integers, they are adding whole numbers. They mean the same thing. So firstly then, what is the column method? Well, let me show you an example of a question that your child might get in their homework, and hopefully that will explain. So this here is an example of a question that your child might get in their homework. It says copy and complete the calculation below. What is the answer? So this is how the column method is set out. So you might be asked to do the calculation 482 plus 736. And to perform the column addition, you would set out the numbers in a column, one on top of each other, lined up so that the values in the same place value column are in line with each other. So for example, here we've got a 2 in the ones column and a 6 in the ones column, so they're going to be lined up with each other. We've got an 8 in the tens column and a 3 in the tens column on this number, so they're lined up with each other. And we've got a 4 on the hundreds column, we've got a 7 on the hundreds column, so they're lined up with each other as well. So we line up the numbers in the correct place value. Now sometimes students can write the sort of place value words above the numbers. This can help some students to put the correct numbers in the correct place value. So if your child is struggling to put numbers in the correct place, maybe writing the place value words above the numbers can sometimes help. We've also got the addition symbol here to let us know that this is column addition, because there are other types of column operations like column multiplication and column subtraction, just to name a few. So to perform a column addition, you would work from right to left. The reason for this is because when you add numbers up, if the number is greater than 10, the answer is greater than 10, then you have to what we call carry over, but sometimes referred to as exchange, the number in the column above it. Okay, so I'll explain the column above it. So I'll explain that now. So starting on the right, 2 plus 6 is 8. So I can just write that on my answer line. 8 plus 3 is 11. Now I can't just write 11 here because this, as we work in the base 10 system, you know, we only have numbers from 0 to 9 for a value, so we can't write 11 for a single digit. So what we would write instead is a 1 here, because 11, and instead of writing 1 here, we will write a little 1. Now some students like to write this below the line, and some students like to write it above the line. It depends on how your student writes it and how your child has been taught. I personally like to write it above the line. That's just the way I've always done it. The reason why you have to write the 1 here is because technically you've got 11 tens, right? That's what you've got. And 11 tens is equal to 100 and 110. That's what it means. You've basically exchanged, that's where this word comes in, exchange 10 tens for 100, because 10 tens is 100. So that's what's happened. That's why you write the 1 there, and that is the whole purpose of doing that. Then we can add up these hundreds together, obviously acknowledging the fact we've just put a 1 here as well. So 4 plus 7 is 11, plus 1 is 12. And again, we can't write 12 in the hundreds column, but 12 hundreds is the same as 1,000 and 2 hundreds. So what we could do is write the 200s there in the correct column, and then the 1000 there. So our final answer for what is 482 plus 736, it is 1218, and that is the correct answer. Now, again, the way that this would get more complicated is by adding more sort of columns to add up. So if there was thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, whatever, if there were more columns to add up, that would obviously increase the difficulty. And also if there was more values that you would have to add up. So if there was, if you were adding up 123 plus 482 plus 798 plus 234, that would be more complicated, and you would have to set all the numbers out on top of each other. But the method is exactly the same, and no matter how many numbers you have and no matter how big the numbers are, the same method always works. Also, looking back at our keywords, I was going to explain what number bonds are. Now, number bonds are really helpful tool used at primary school, but are also really helpful just for everyday maths and maths at a high level. So the key one here is understanding the number bonds to 10, because for column addition it's important to know the number bonds to 10. So what we mean by a number bond is just numbers that add up to kind of a nice number, so to speak. So preferably something like 10 or 100 or 1000, and knowing these number bonds off by heart. So for example, a classic example of a number bond would be 1 and 9 or 3 and 7, right? For number bonds to 10. You can have number bonds to 100, like 2 and 98, 46 and 54, right? And number bonds to 10. 100, sorry. So it's important that we know the number bonds to 10, because they can actually really help when we do something like a column addition. Because if we know those number bonds to 10, we know we're going to have to do some sort of exchange. We know we're going to have to write some value in the next place value column. So that's why we use number bonds. So to sum up this video then, hopefully you have the skills now to be able to help your child in the column addition questions about adding integers. Remember, integer means whole number, in whatever homework questions that they have on that topic. But if you haven't done so already, definitely subscribe so you don't miss out on any other videos. But all I want to say is thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.